Hello everyone, this is AndresRestart, and today I would like to talk about how I'm just so done with this wild era of Zelda. And when I say wild era, I literally mean this era that began with The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and then continued with its DLC, and then continued with its spin-off Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, and then continued with the sequel to Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, and now is continuing again with its spin-off, Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, which is coming out tomorrow. And don't get me wrong, I'm going to play Age of Imprisonment. I actually think there are things here that are going to be exciting for the Zelda fanbase, which I do want to touch on today. I want to touch on my expectations going into this game, talking about some of the recent reviews, and using this video as a little bit of a primer or a setup for those who are waiting to play Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. But I want to go beyond that. I want to talk about what's beyond this game. I want to talk about how we've been waiting such a long time, and how it's now time for us to get ready for the future of The Legend of Zelda, because I think there are even more exciting things on the horizon, especially with Zelda's 40th anniversary next year. So that's what we're getting into today. Now, before going forward, let me point out that I do have this goal to reach 60,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So if you do find yourself enjoying my content, I would very much appreciate your support in whatever form that may come in. A subscription, liking the video, hyping the video, it all makes a huge difference, but at least thank you for watching today's video. So something very interesting happened yesterday. The FTIA, the Film and Television Industry Alliance, updated their page, and now we see that the shooting date for the Legend of Zelda feature film, the live action that we know that is coming out in 2027, they are starting production, like actually shooting the film, filming, November 4th, literally yesterday. They've already started. So that's big news, and yeah, they're filming in New Zealand as we've been hearing, which is also exciting to hear. They filmed the Lord of the Rings trilogy in New Zealand. This is a live action, so I feel like there's probably going to be some very interesting similarities there. Not saying they're going to go for an exact Lord of the Rings-like feel, but there could be some elements there which I think is appropriate for The Legend of Zelda. Twilight Princess, after all, was actually inspired by Lord of the Rings, so I definitely think New Zealand is an ideal place to film a Zelda movie. And I just know someone in the comments is going to talk about how they should have made this an animated movie, but I don't agree with that. I think Nintendo has made the right decision here in going for a live action. I think that's going to depict something amazing, and I know some people are concerned, but I don't think Nintendo would have greenlit this project if they didn't think it would work. Nintendo's very careful about their characters, their IP, their brand. There's a reason we went decades without a proper Zelda movie, because they didn't think there was a good way to put out movies that would be good for their IP. Now Nintendo's established a framework where they can get this done. So the fact that they are doing a live-action Zelda movie, I think it's happening because Nintendo has reason to believe it's going to be good. Otherwise, they would not be doing this. So I'm not worried. I'm excited. I'm eager to see more on this project. I imagine we're going to be learning more next year, 2026, the 40th anniversary for The Legend of Zelda. And similar to how we have seen anniversary stuff leading up to the Mario movies, I imagine Nintendo is going to do something very similar for the Zelda movie. I'm expecting big things for Zelda next year, and that may even touch on the future of the Zelda series, not just celebrating its past. So this just has me eager for the future of Zelda. But before this future, we have Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. And I want to talk about some of the review scores that have come out for this game. As you see here on the Metacritic page, critics have given this an overall score of 79, which for now is actually slightly higher than Age of Calamity at 78, but basically the same. I will note that this does have 113 critical reviews, Age of Calamity, which is a larger sample size than what we have for Age of Imprisonment right now, which is so far 59 critical reviews. But still, at 59, that already gives us a pretty good picture of what most critics think of the game. It's a pretty good game, not an amazing game, not a masterpiece, but also not a bad game by any stretch. It's a solid, good game, and if it's something that you're into in terms of maybe Warriors games or Zelda, then perhaps you should consider picking this one up. Now, looking at what Voxel had to say, this is the most positive review on the page, this summary here. Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment not only stands as the pinnacle of the Musou genre, bringing variety to a style often marked by repetition from its combat to its structure, but also firmly earned its place amongst the best canonical Zelda titles. Koei Tecmo absorbs everything that makes the Zelda franchise so special and delivers a work worthy of making Eiji Aonuma and Shigeru Miyamoto proud. I think this is probably way too high of praise. This line right here, how they're saying that it absorbs everything that makes the Zelda franchise so special and delivers it with work that's worthy of making Aonuma and Miyamoto proud. I'm sure they're proud of this as a spin-off title, but not as a Zelda title or the Zelda title. So I wouldn't go into this game thinking that, oh, this is like the next big 3D Zelda game. This is not. This is a spin-off. Let's just make sure we have that in mind here. If you play this game expecting to get something like the next Breath of the Wild, you are going to be very, very, very disappointed. So I think that's probably way too positive. But I do think the point that this is a really good Musou game, a really good Warriors game that polishes upon the mechanics in Age of Calamity, from everything I've seen and heard, that part probably sounds about right. This may be even a little bit of an improvement over what we saw from Age of Calamity. We've seen from a performance perspective that's running at 60 FPS, that alone is going to make for a big difference. But let's now take a look at the most negative review on this page here, just so we can be a bit more balanced. And as it says here, a 40 out of 100 from Metro Game Central, insanely repetitive, horribly shallow, and pointlessly easy. This is the absolute least interesting thing to do with Zelda on the Switch 2, and bad even by the low standards of the Dynasty Warrior franchise. I think this one is probably more off than this one from Voxel. I think what they're saying here is clearly being extremely negative and extremely insulting to the Warriors franchise. Like, yes, Dynasty Warriors is about fighting massive hordes of enemies. It's a hack and slash. It can be repetitive. But to say that it's just low standards, I mean, you can have that opinion, but that's definitely very insulting. And they're actually saying that this is bad even for the low standards of a Dynasty Warriors game. And what I find interesting about this is that most people feel that the Warriors games have actually been improving, and that these games that are focusing on particular IP like Persona or Fire Emblem or Zelda are actually better. So I think this one is probably pretty way off, and there's a reason why this single score is dragging down the overall score here. It's just way off, but it's also just one opinion. So that's it. It's one opinion, and I wouldn't worry too much about it. Now, looking at something that's more so in the middle, from one of the sites of IGN, like its predecessor, Age of Imprisonment serves up highly enjoyable power fantasy action against a competently translated Zelda backdrop. Competently translated seems like a little bit more of an appropriate description of what's going on here. But continuing, while the title avoids major innovations, too much so, it tweaks the right elements and improves greatly on the performance and visuals. If you only bring a love for the underlying franchise, the repetitive gameplay might tire you rather quickly. However, for genre enthusiasts and especially fans of the first game, this title is a no-brainer. And I think the summary right here is pretty much totally on the money. This is not a game that's for the overall Zelda fan base. However, if you are a big Zelda fan and you're also a Warriors fan, then this is the ideal game for you. But maybe you're a big Zelda fan and you've thought about a Warriors game, you've only tried one or if you haven't tried one before, then yeah, maybe give this a try. But if you hate Warriors games, if you just don't like them at all, then you're probably gonna have problems with this one as well. Maybe the Zelda story can pull you through, but it might be kind of a slog if you really don't like the gameplay. So that is something to keep in mind here. Now for me, I actually enjoyed the gameplay for Age of Calamity. I do agree that it can be a little repetitive, but typically that's how most hack and slashes are. It's supposed to be about fighting all these different enemies, and it's kind of meant to be a little bit therapeutic. But there is a combo system, and from what I've played of the demo, there does appear to be quite a bit of mechanics that they're mixing all together here. So I'm not sure it's going to be that repetitive. There's actually a decent amount you can do with the combat. You can do flurry rushes, you can do dodges, you have the sync attacks, you have different items you can use, you have a few different combos you can use, and there are a decent amount of characters that all feel pretty different. So I think there's actually a decent amount of variety for this particular Warriors game. So I'm not too worried about the repetitive nature of the Musou genre. And I'm more so interested about learning more about the story. Like, my plan here is to just kind of blitz through the game and see what's going on, and then probably make theory videos on what's going on. And I'm anticipating that there's going to be some interesting things here between Ganondorf, the Gerudo, his attendants Kotaka and Koemi. I want to see if there's any hints about their future as witches in the times of Ocarina of Time. I want to see what's going on with Kalamo, if he's indeed going to become the Deku Tree. I want to see what's going on with the mysterious construct. We all expect it to be Link, but what form of Link? I want to see if there's any evidence or hints towards that. And I want to see if there's any hints towards the future of The Legend of Zelda, because we've seen many Zelda games actually tease the future of Zelda games, including the Warriors games. Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, in hindsight, actually very much teased several big elements in Tears of the Kingdom. So could they be doing something similar with Age of Imprisonment? I think there's a strong chance of that, so I'm definitely eager to check that out, especially when we consider that we are so close to 2026, the 40th anniversary for The Legend of Zelda. Which brings me to my bigger point here. I'm going to blitz this story, I'm going to enjoy it, but I'm probably not going to come back to it. I am just ready to move on. We've gone to see more from these Zelda characters than any other. We've seen this art style more so than any other, by a lot. I'm ready for something new, and what's interesting about this is that usually when they make a new Zelda game, I'm not talking about spin-offs here, I'm talking about new Zelda games like the next era of Zelda, like the next generation of Zelda, they move on to a new art style, right? Like from the Ocarina of Time Majora's Mask era, they moved on to the Wind Waker, and then Twilight Princess, and then Skyward Sword, and then Breath of the Wild. And all the top-down Zeldas had their own styles too. Usually they like to use a new art style. I'm expecting that for the next brand new Zelda game, or even a remake. I expect that's going to look very different from anything we've seen before. Of course, if it's a remake, I'm sure it would share some elements with its original work, but it would be a remake, so I would hope it would look a lot better, matching our expectations for what a modern game could look like. I know some people think that Nintendo would not do an ambitious remake for the Zelda series, but we talked about it in other videos. I don't need to harp on that here. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But the main point is here that we are used to seeing new art styles, and because they decided to do Tears of the Kingdom, it's been a very long wait for this next brand new look of Zelda. When they first announced this sequel, we thought they would have a quick turnaround, like Majora's Mask. They're using the same characters, the same world, building upon the mechanics established with Breath of the Wild. All of that should have helped them to make the game quicker, but it ended up having a longer development cycle than Breath of the Wild. Very surprising. Now, some of that has to do with the fact that they were very ambitious with the new abilities and Fuse and Ultra Hand and such, but there was a cost there. The world we got was largely the same. Like, yes, there were the caves, the depths, new characters, the Sky Islands, and all that definitely helped the world to feel interesting, and I definitely enjoyed Tears of the Kingdom a great deal. I was still ultimately left with a desire for more. I was left with wanting to see a new world, a new place to explore, and they didn't give us that much of that, which, you know, now thinking upon it more so, I actually think was a pretty big miss. Because the Zelda games are about adventure. That's one of the things that made Breath of the Wild so special. So when you don't give us a full new world to explore, that takes away from the adventure a little bit, I would say. And so we've been waiting a very, very long time. Like, yes, we had a direct sequel with Majora's Mask after Ocarina of Time, and they used the same characters and assets and all of that. It still had a new world to explore, and the turnaround was very quick. Ocarina of Time came out in 1998, Majora's Mask came out in the year 2000, and Wind Waker came out late 2002 or early 2003 depending on what region you live in. Like, the wait between these Zelda games was not that long. Now waits have gone on a lot longer. And we're not even talking about just Breath and Tears here, but also these Warriors games. So there's just been a lot with these particular characters, and I don't want to go so far as to say that it's been exhausting, but I am eager for something new. I'm very eager for something new. So I'm ready to play Age of Imprisonment very soon. I'm ready to play through it, see what they have to offer for the story, and I'm ready to move on from it and start thinking about what is next. But what do you all think? Let me know in the comments below. This is AndresRestart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I will see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.